Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and today I'd like to talk about FOPO. And though I was aware of the more detailed meaning of this word, I recently came across this terminology, FOPO, which essentially is fearing other people's opinions. And as much as some of us would not like to think of our fears, assuming that not fearing anything is bravery or that it makes us seem more courageous, in fact, it's just the other way around. In my understanding, acknowledging our fears and facing our fears is actually the true sign of courage and bravery. And almost all of us, on some level or the other, fear facing other people's opinions. Have the fear of other people's opinions about ourselves, which is exactly where fight, flight, freeze, or fawn or appease responses comes into the picture even when there's no real danger around, even when we get psychologically triggered. So then why do we have FOPO? Well, to a great degree, inherently, it's a part of our evolutionary journey, wherein we are social species, wherein we are tribal species, wherein we are a species that has lived in a community which evolved through hunter-gatherer tribes in the jungle and now lives in concrete jungles. So if we come to think of it, nature has naturally created us in a way wherein our very survival depended on us being a part of that tribe, a part of that community, a part of that group, a part of that crowd, a part of that social construct. Because having a fallout, and not just a physical fallout, but an emotional and a mental fallout from that group, could have actually costed our very lives. Not having a sense of belonging within that tribe, within that group, within that social construct, could have caused our death. And if it was designed by nature in such a way, it quite naturally also is inbuilt in our physical bodies, wherein there's a part of our brain and thereby a nervous system which still is hardwired for survival, for wanting to belong in a group, for wanting to be a part of a community and a social construct, even when we have moved out from the real jungles into the concrete jungles. And it is that part of our nervous system that kind of doesn't really clearly understand the difference between belonging and fitting in, between being alone and between being lonely, between caring or caring too much, which may end up in worrying. It is that part of our brain and our nervous system that is inbuilt in our very physiology, in our physical body, which reacts and acts from the place of survival, from the place of not having a fallout, which essentially to some degree or the other translates to FOPO, wherein I don't want to be perceived as rebellious for the fear of having a fallout, for the fear of being disliked, for the fear of feeling rejected, for the fear of not feeling accepted, for the fear of feeling and or being abandoned, for the fear of feeling left out. And this to some degree has been beautifully portrayed in the movie Three Idiots, wherein the character of Farhan, played by Madhavan, is so afraid of conflict that he almost chooses to give up his dreams, his passions, and thereby a bigger aspect of his life in order to fulfill somebody else's vision for him, somebody else's expectation of him. Maybe to some degree he even feels obligated, and thereby it's his mechanism to live up to somebody else's expectations so as to repay off their debt, so as to repay off their obligations. He's probably so afraid of feeling rejected, of not being accepted, of not feeling belonged in that particular setup, in that particular familial environment, in that particular social environment, that he was willing to reject himself first before anybody else could have a chance to reject him, that he was willing to disappoint himself first before somebody else could get disappointed, that he was willing to disappoint himself so that others could appoint and approve of him, that he almost chooses his fears over his passion, that he almost chooses to live in regret rather than live a more fulfilled life. That he almost chooses inauthenticity towards himself rather than being authentic towards himself and towards others. That he almost chooses to live his life by his fears rather than having the courage to stand up to his fears and face them. Which, in my understanding, is also the expectations that is not effectively communicated, that is not effectively interacted with. And to some degree, as much as it is the fear of having a fallout or not feeling a sense of belonging from a certain social construct, from a certain community, it is also the backup of another community, of another social construct, which is his friend group, which is his friend or friends that give him the back support that he needs to stand up for himself. It is the backup of this small community that helps him communicate his own desires, his own passions to his own family, to make them understand his desires for himself, to make them understand about his passion, to make them understand what he valued and cared for. It is the loving care and the support of this small community that helps him take that courageous step to be able to face his fears. And not just face his fears, but even to communicate his own fears in a far better manner. To be able to tell his own people, to be able to tell his own family that he would rather choose to follow his passions, which he is excited about, which he has always dreamt about, rather than holding a grudge or a resentment against them, towards them for the rest of his life, rather than feeling burdened by their expectations, rather than carrying the baggage of their expectations and not sharing the same joy with them, even if he chose to live up to their expectations, which again were born out of the assumption and perception of what the neighboring Mr. Sharma felt or thought about them. So maybe it's time to reflect and to understand if we are living from FOPO, fearing other people's opinions. If you're caring a little too much about what others think or may think about us. And the difference here is not just caring, but caring a little too much, which translates into worries, which is happening at a very subconscious level. Are we living out of the fear of what others perceive or may perceive about us, and thereby probably suppressing our authentic selves and being misaligned with ourselves, and even being misaligned with the community, with the social group, with the social construct wherein we wish to belong, without truly realizing that there's a subtle difference between fitting in and between belonging. And how is that misalignment and thereby misattunement helping us connect better, making us feel more belonged? Let's try and think about all of those things, and I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contextual content of these videos, please do like, share and subscribe.